it's time to talk about Denzel Crocker and his unnatural obsession with very good parents!
That's right, after over a year and a half of planning, it's finally time for Denzel Crocker's own character quest. Fairly Odd Parents is known for a lot of things, but admittedly, well thought out characterization is not one of them. As the seasons would go on, the characters would get flatter, louder, and dumber, and would overall have fewer traits to keep you invested in what's going on. Though, to be fair, it's not like the series had any grand stories to tell outside of Timmy's Secret Wish or that weird trilogy with the darkness, you know that one. But the exception to the rule seems to be Mr. Crocker. The pseudo-main antagonist of the series once Vicky took a step to the side, Crocker is, on the surface, an insane yet hilarious villain that serves as a perfect foil to Timmy, but when you get down to it, he's actually the most compelling character that has ever been in the Fairly Odd Parents. And why is that? Well, let me explain. This is the tragic tale of Denzel Crocker. Firstly, before we get into what makes Crocker so compelling, we need to talk about his history. Crocker used to be a lovable, happy, average kid that no one understands. His single mom, he doesn't have a present father figure, and his babysitter Rick would always give him commands. Sound familiar? Yeah, Crocker was a lot like Timmy. Neglected by his less than perfect parents, having an abusive red-haired babysitter, and oh yeah, having Cosmo and Wanda as his fairy godparents. Though unlike Timmy, who usually blends into the crowd and isn't really cared about by anyone outside of his friend group, Crocker was the toast of the town. He did good deeds, he made people smile, and everyone in Dimsdale was going to celebrate just how wonderful this little boy was on a special celebration that took place on March 15th. But thanks to Timmy Turner traveling back in time and ruining things for everybody, Cosmo ended up getting exposed to the world, revealing that Crocker indeed had
very good parents!
This breaks the cardinal rule when it comes to owning fairies. Jorgen von Strangle came down, wiped Crocker's memory, deformed him significantly, and had everybody in Dimsdale turn on him for basically no reason, aside from them being idiots. But even though his memory was wiped, Crocker did find out that fairy godparents do indeed exist. So now, his life's goal is to prove that he was right all along and that fairies are real, and if used correctly, could have their power be harnessed for reasons. It kinda changes depending on the episode, but the point still stands. Now, I was all set to talk about how Crocker is the bad ending version of Timmy. He had Cosmo and Wanda as fairies, he had bad parents, he had a bad babysitter, but really, that stuff's kinda obvious. And besides, Timmy hasn't really screwed up in this way particularly. He's messed up in other ways, but the Crocker path isn't exactly one that he's taken, so yeah. But what I do want to talk about is just how similar he is to one of my favorite characters in anything ever, the bowler hat guy from Meet the Robinsons. Just like the bowler hat guy, Crocker had his future ruined by somebody else, but whereas the bowler hat guy vows vengeance and tries to ruin the other person's life, Crocker tries to prove that he was right all along. Fairies are real. We've seen that everybody's forgotten all the great things that young Denzel has done for the town, but I don't think that Crocker did himself. Even though he obviously doesn't remember having Cosmo and Wanda, but I do have to think that he knows that his life used to be better at some point. Now, of course, he later says that he doesn't remember a time when he was happy, but you still have to figure that he knows that his life didn't always used to be this bad, right? At least I do. The way I look at it, if Crocker gets a hold of a fairy and he proves that they're real to everybody who mocked him, in his eyes, everything will be made right. He won't be the town laughingstock anymore, and he'll be considered one of the greatest thinkers in our modern age. Here's the thing about Crocker, he's crazy, yes, but he's also really smart. Firstly, he's able to create a whole bunch of high-tech gadgetry, more or less, to capture fairies, but he's also just straight-up book smart. We can see this in the now disowned episode It's a Wishful Life, where without Timmy Turner's meddling, Crocker would have become a high-ranking college professor. Still in education, yes, but he's sharing his vast array of knowledge to the world. He's loved, he's respected, and he has the life that he always wanted. But the thing that Crocker doesn't realize is that the only person standing in the way of him having this future is himself. Think about it. There were many times in Crocker's past where he was seen as just another guy, albeit a little strange. He had a pretty solid relationship with Geraldine Waxaplax. He was getting scouted by medical institutions and the government. He was given so many chances to make his life what he always wanted it to be, but no, it always has to come back to,
Very good, parents!
okay, that's the last time I'm gonna do this, I promise. Crocker is so focused on proving that he was always right, that he's objectively throwing away his success. If he didn't focus so much on fairies and just let that be either a secret passion, or even better, just let the whole thing go and let the past be the past, he would be okay. But now it's too late, for a number of reasons I might add. Firstly, the constant derision that he faces from the townspeople has definitely warped his psyche. He's been mocked every step of the way for decades, and now he's snapped. He uses his teaching job to torture other kids so that he feels better about himself, and that he feels like he has some kind of level of control in his crazy life. But also, as we've seen in Abracatastrophe, when Crocker gets a hold of a fairy, he no longer wants to prove to the world that fairies exist and reclaim his reputation. No. Now he's going to make the whole world his classroom, so to speak. He's gonna exert his authority over every person in the world and show them just how fierce a Crocker regime can be. But then there's also the added element that it's too late for Crocker to fix his mess. And I don't mean like, oh yeah, he can't fix his community standing because everybody will always see him as insane. I mean that not even fairy magic can pull him out of the situation. There's one episode in the later part of the series, Crocker Shocker I believe, where Crocker magically no longer believes in fairy godparents. He starts living a normal life and little by little is able to pull everything together. But no, it's up to Timmy, Cosmo, Wanda, and Jorgen to make Crocker believe in fairies once again. Apparently, in a very short-sighted move, all the fairies in Fairy World have decided to use Crocker as their main source of power. So now without his rampant belief in fairy godparents, they're starting to lose their magic. So yes, Crocker has to live a ruined, miserable life in order for the fairies to have their magic. Crocker is stuck. I'd talk more about this, but the Fairly Odd Parents has done quite a few situations like this in the past. Most notably with Vicky, where they make it clear that if she has any other job, the world's gonna be doomed, so she has to be Timmy's babysitter for the good of humanity. Great. Though I would like to point out that despite everything that he's been through, and yes, despite the fact that he has unending plans for world domination, I don't think Crocker's all that bad of a guy. I think, above it all, he's just lonely. It's often been said that one of the best episodes of The Fairly Odd Parents, late series or otherwise, is Bad Air Day, and you know what? I absolutely agree. Here we see Poof, one of the lesser mistakes that the Fairly Odd Parents would go on to make, turn up at Crocker's house, and Crocker believes that Poof is now his son, and the two end up bonding. You would think with how much he torments the kids in his class, he would be downright cruel to Poof, but he finally sees someone that he can build from the ground up to have a happy life and to carry on the Crocker legacy, and someone to help him have new meaning in his life. He only introduces DJ, as he calls him, to hunting fairies a little while down the road. And even then, it's not like he was saying, okay, now this is all we're ever going to do, and this is what I need you for, I need a sidekick. No. He wants this to be a father-son activity, a sort of family business, if you will. And then when it's revealed that DJ's actually a fairy, Crocker lets him go. This would have been his chance. If he captured this fairy, he would finally have gotten what he wanted. But no, he cared about his quote-unquote son too much. We've spent the last 10 minutes or so talking about just how important this quest was to Crocker, but the fact that he prioritized who he believed to be his son, over decades of torment? That's gotta tell you what's really going on in his head. All those times he screams about fairies, all the times he makes Timmy and his friends miserable, they're cries for help. When you're isolated in life, things tend to amplify in your head. Your negative traits grow stronger, you're more irritable, and you have a difficult time connecting with others. Just take a look at Chris Chan and you'll see what I mean.
No!
Crocker really does need a person or group of people to help anchor him down to earth, and while he'll never stop believing in fairies, they could help him reform slightly at least, have him at least be happy with himself. He sort of had that with Waxaplax, but again, fairies came first. Just goes to show you that you don't always have to be right. While yes, the Fairly Odd Parents greatly exaggerates the situation, shows you that sometimes people really do prioritize being valid over actually being happy. Sometimes it really is best just to let things go, because otherwise, you'll have nobody to blame for your terrible life other than yourself. And I know there's a bunch of people in the comments saying,
Well, didn't you say that it was Timmy's fault? And what about Cosmo? He revealed himself to the world.
yeah, that's not what I'm talking about. Yes, what happened on March 15th was bad. Yes, Crocker's life got turned upside down. But if he did what Meet the Robinsons said to do and kept moving forward, he probably could have been okay. He would have been happy with Waxaplax, he could have gotten a job at a college, and while yes, he still would have had that weird fairy obsession, he could have had friends, a legitimate family, a future, but no. It's all about validation. And I'm sorry to say this, but even if Crocker did prove the existence of fairies, I don't think it would change much in his life. I think it's too late. While yes, he would have proven to the world that he's not factually crazy, his behavior to others and the way that he carries himself about day to day has definitely left its mark. If he's right, who cares? He's still a nasty, uncomfortable person to be around, which means that if Crocker did get his way and didn't take over the world, he would be at a loss. He'd still be shunned, he'd still be made fun of, albeit not for the fairy thing anymore, but now he no longer has his purpose. His life's goal was to hunt down fairies, but now that he's got one, what's there left to do? That's sort of why he has to take over the world. Without it, he has nothing left in his life. Just goes to show you that if one person calls you out, then maybe they're wrong, but if it's an entire group and it seems like everybody's against you, then maybe you're doing something wrong. Sometimes it's okay to take a loss. Not every argument has to be won. Not every battle has to be some kind of crowning victory. Letting things go and moving on really does help make your life better. Or at least it helps you not end up like Crocker. So please, take Crocker as a warning sign and don't end up like him. Strive for an A in life, not an F, okay? Well folks, thanks for watching the video. What'd you guys think? What's your favorite aspect of Crocker, and what's your favorite Crocker-centered episode? My favorites are Abracatastrophe and The Secret Origin of Denzel Crocker, in case you can't tell by the fact that those were the main two I used for this video. But anyways, comment below and let me know, because I'm always excited to hear what you guys have to say. And now it's time to thank our wonderful Patreon people, starting with our Masters of Fate. Chan 11, Drew the Stew, Kev Messick, Manny Paredes, MD the Dude, Quiet Chap, Ryan Williams, Timey, and Woody Woo. And now our executive producers, Aaron Vasquez, Albert Robinson, Blackjack, H.R. Hoffman, Indiscreet One, Orsinus, Ravioli Supremo, Unkale, and who else but Zane. If you too would like your name read at the end of every Media Mementos video, then consider donating to the Patreon. There's a link in the description below for you to check out. And there's also a link to our Discord server, so stop on by and say hello. Alright folks, thanks for watching the video, and I'll see you guys next time.